where your participation is just as important as what we will say to you, at least to start this event. To give you a little bit of history, Manzanar At Dusk started as an event called Manzanar After Dark. And thank goodness one person just walked in who I'm going to embarrass in a second. This program is now 20 years old. It started as Manzanar After Dark. It started around a campfire in a campground just west of Independence. And where we got the idea was, in the mid-90s, the Manzanar Pilgrimage has an interactive component to it. We never had one. All we had was the pilgrimage in the afternoon, and that was it. But one year, Tony Musumi and his wife, Jenny Kuita, who never came back there, Tony got the idea, well, why don't we do an interactive component during the pilgrimage? So that's how Manzanar After Dark was born. And Manzanar After Dark is really the brainchild of Jenny Kuita, who's in the back there. Jenny, could you stand, please? And without her Akahagihara, the creative force behind this, without some students in the City College of San Francisco who were helping put this event on for years and years, we wouldn't be standing before you right now. So please give Jenny another hand. So anyway, Manzanar After Dark was, again, based on a campfire for the first couple of years. And part of the idea was to get an idea of what the conditions might have been like. And especially that first year, they sure got a taste of it because it snowed, I believe, the first night. And if you can imagine that, they woke up to snow flurries. And so they sure got a taste of what it was like. But eventually, the program got a little too big for a campground, and we moved to the American Legion Hall in Independence, which is a town just north of Manzanar Historic Site. And we'd get crowds of about 140 thereabouts. But by the time 2007 rolled around, and that was 3 years after the visitor center in Manzanar opened, we were getting crowds over 200. In 2007, we had the event for the only time in the visitor center at Manzanar. And if you can imagine that place packed to the walls with people, we got worried we were going to damage an exhibit. And we almost did for a couple of them. So since 2008, and by that time the program had been renamed Manzanar At Dusk. But in 2008, the program moved here to Lone Pine High School. We've been here ever since, and we want to make sure we thank Lone Pine Unified School District for their generosity because they don't charge us, they've never charged us to use this facility. All we do is we pay for the janitor salary. But when we moved here, by that time the program had lost a little bit of its character. And I say that because for various reasons, which we'll bother to get into, so I'm not important, the Manzanar community kind of had to pull back the planning of the program, kind of just do it ourselves. And it had lost the input of young people, like the students who were co-sponsoring that, which we're going to introduce you to shortly. And without that, I really felt the event had lost some of its character. But part of that was some of these student groups at the time weren't ready to add something to their responsibilities. Well, by the time 2011 rolled around, and I say this because I'm a product of the UCLA UK Student Union, so I kind of know what they do. They're young, I'm not ancient as far as I'm concerned. I was president in the early mid-80s, that's how long I'm talking about. But by 2011, I got the sense that they were ready to take on this responsibility of coming back to take ownership of this program. And the great thing was, when I first approached the UCLA group, they had already thought of ways that they could get involved with this event. So they were already thinking about it by the time I approached them. Well, push comes to shove, and then that first year, the Kelowna Nikkei Student Union and the UCSD Nikkei Student Union joined together. So we had 3 organizations that first year back taking ownership of this program, and the program has just taken off ever since. We've added a fourth group, the Cal State Long Beach Nikkei Student Union, and these four groups are co-sponsoring this event. And it's really their event. The Manzanar Committee really is just the caretakers. They own it. And I get a little emotional talking about that because, like I said, I'm one of them, basically. I'm a part of them, of their groups, and it gives me great pride to see them, especially what you're going to see them do now, is really take responsibility for keeping the stories of those who incarcerated alive. And so, Harley, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the event itself.
Yeah, so today we'll have a creative presentation and a gallery walkthrough of quotes that are put on by our hardworking students. And then we'll split up into small groups to have conversations with each other. And then we'll have the open mic session.
And so just so everyone knows, these students have been working on this since last November to create and organize this creative presentation for you. So they've definitely drawn upon a number of primary resources, including like oral histories and stories of former incarcerees, as well as drawing parallels to today's political atmosphere. So I hope you enjoy their introduction, but I'd like to introduce your Manzanar At Dusk committee.
Hello, welcome to Manzanar At Dusk 2017. Thank you for coming out this evening. This year is a special year. It's the 75th anniversary of Executive Order 9066, as well as the 25th anniversary of Manzanar being declared a National Historic Site. Every year since 1997, so 20 years, the Nikkei student unions have organized Manzanar At Dusk in collaboration with the Manzanar Committee. Organizing schools include Cal State Long Beach, Cal Poly Pomona, UCLA, and UC San Diego. We hope you guys enjoy the program and take away something valuable from this experience. And I'd like to take the time to introduce everyone from the universities.
Right, so my name is Emiko. I'm from UCLA, and over in the back is another representative from UCLA, Lisa Matsukawa, doing sound.
My name is Julie Yoshinaga from Cal State Long Beach.
My name is Justin Shimane from Cal State Long Beach.
Tyler Suzuki from Cal Poly Pomona.
I'm Matsumoto from UC San Diego. I'm Brianna Seta, also from UC San Diego.
And now these audio clips that we are going to present to you guys were pulled from Densho, where we were able to gather personal accounts from former incarcerees on their experiences at the incarceration camps.
Yeah, like I said, being assaulted and being treated like an enemy in the country that they were born in. Wow, I didn't stand that.
Well, my own personal feeling was that outside of it being an insult to be forced to answer those questions, that it was just to be able to continue our lives. You had to answer in a way that allowed you to do so. And I respect people who question its legitimacy. But I'm more of a practical person, I guess. And I felt like, well, it insulted you by asking a question that assumed that you had loyalties to the emperor. That was the worst part. It was bad for the Issei's, who had no country if they gave up their association, the way they were treated here and not allowed to become citizens. And then they were asked to give up their loyalty to the emperor of Japan, or their government of Japan. And so if you put your feet in their shoes, then you can see how difficult it was for them.
I believe this was happening to us, and especially when my brother had volunteered for the service. I felt so close and so sure, America couldn't believe what's happening to us. And I questioned JC before isn't that so true? We have to go. And the word was that if we didn't go and meet at a certain place, we would be put in jail.
The passage of the Alien Registration Act of 1940 brought about the nationwide registration and fingerprinting of all 4.9 million resident aliens in the U.S.
with specific interest in Italians, Germans, and Japanese with the events of World War II in mind. The Alien Enemy Act of 1798, which gave the President power to apprehend, restrain, and remove resident enemy aliens during times of war or national emergency, fueled the implementation of this act.
On the topic of a database for tracking Muslim presence in this country, in November 2015, Trump said there should be a lot of systems, beyond database. We should have a lot of systems, and today you can do that. And later added, I would certainly implement that. He later claimed to have said nothing of the sort.
Well, I can say that because of our features and all that. But, of course, I need God and yes, I need more classes and get the propaganda and all that. So, we discuss them enough, that's all.
The headlines were just terribly vicious as far as, of course, and that's to work up the patriotism on the part of Americans to fight the war against the Japs. And it was very, then I think it started to feel very much the pressure of discrimination.
Executive Order 9066, passed on February 19, 1942. From the posted flyers titled Instructions to All Persons of Japanese Ancestry. Pursuant of the provisions of Civilian Exclusion Order Number 33, this headquarters, dated May 3, 1942, all persons of the Japanese ancestry, both alien and non-alien, will be evacuated from the above area by 12 o'clock noon, PWT, Saturday, May 9, 1942. No Japanese person living in the above area will be permitted to change residence after 12 o'clock noon, PWT, Sunday, May 3, 1942, without obtaining special permission from the representative of the Commanding General, Southern California Sector.
Executive Order 13769, passed on January 27, 2017. Section 1B. Among other action, Executive Order 13769 suspended for 90 days the entry of certain aliens from 7 countries: Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. These are countries that have already been identified as presenting heightened concerns about terrorism and travel to the United States. Terrorist groups have sought to infiltrate several nations through refugee programs. Accordingly, I temporarily suspend the USRAP pending a review of our procedures for screening and vetting refugees. Executive Order 13769 did not provide a basis for discriminating for or against members of any particular religion.
And when they took your father, did you know that you were going to later, or did you find out after your father? It's just like the FBI would come in the middle of the night, knock on your door, get you dressed up and take you away. And that's what happened to my father. And the same thing with you? They just no, for us it was different. They told us to be in a certain place, and then we met there, and then they took us. So your father was part of it. Yeah, I guess he was maybe he was active.
Fred Korematsu refused to leave his home for the incarceration camps set up by the American government, and thereby was convicted of breaking military law. Gordon Hirabayashi and Minoru Yasui did not abide by the curfews set against them as members of a minority group from a country at war with the U.S., resulting in a 30-day jailing and forfeit of citizenships respectively. Most Issei were taken from their families the day after Pearl Harbor. Contact was cut off and letters redacted, unknowing of when they see their loved ones again.
ICE, also known as Immigration and Customs Enforcement, disliked the term raids and would rather call them targeted enforcement actions, which are intended to go after people who are threats to public safety or a threat to the integrity of the immigration system, according to Gillian Christensen. However, Trump widened the scope of potential targets by the Department of Homeland Security to include even those who may not have committed major crimes.
I think about what happened, and then I compare it to what happened to the Civil War. I think about what happened to the Native Americans who were here in this country before the European population came, what we do to each other. And I see that it is still continuing. But I see the corrections that take place also. I think about people who have worked on correcting injustice, whether it was by marching at the Martin Luther King parade every year in Denver. I march at the Martin Luther King, we call it a Parade, March Parade, Parade, so we always march in the Martin Luther King parade. It's all behind me. I'm fine now. I've survived. But I said, you see something like 9/11 happen, and the hatred that came up against Muslims in our country. And we had to protect the Muslim women to go grocery shopping afterwards. We had to form circles around their mosques to prevent the rest of the population from attacking the mosque. These people were not responsible for 9/11. But there is all kinds of hatred in the world, and somewhere we have to try to correct the injustices that occur. And I speak to college students and I say to them that you're the future of this country and the world. And I'm pleased to see correction because I see people who are of all different races in the classes now that weren't there 15 years ago. The classes were for more privileged kids, but now we're trying to include everybody. And so I think inclusiveness and correction, and it takes work on the part of everyone. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to have a true society that helps improve. We must all work on it.
Alright, so on behalf of the committee, we'd like to thank all of you for listening to what we have presented for you. You may notice that we have these posters all taped up to the sides of the room, so we're going to explain really quickly what's going on here. So if come on up here and... Alright, just kidding, I'm going to explain it. So we're just going to get up and stretch our legs a little bit, because I know that there's been a lot of sitting throughout today, unless you were standing, but anywho. We have all of these quotes that are relevant to the themes that we're going to be discussing today, and we'd like to ask that you all take a look at them and kind of consider the different perspectives that are presented in each one. We're trying to expose everyone to different narratives, and we picked these quotes out ourselves, so we would really like to share that with you. Now, getting to how we're going to organize this.
We obviously don't want you all moving all at once. So what we're going to do, and we're going to wait for the folks coming in to grab a seat. But what we're going to do is what's called a gallery walk. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. We're going to move clockwise, starting over here, and I'll tell you when to get up, so just hold tight for now. And you can just move slowly along. I'm watching you to read all these and take these all in. They start there, they end there. Wait for this group to come in. Find seats, please, quickly. Okay, well, since they're coming in, like half of this bleacher, this way, start making you walk over to these quotes. Just that this half of the bleacher. Creative, something might have inspired you from the pilgrimage, something might have inspired you from your discussions, something that was said in your discussion that you would have to report to the group. Now's the time. going to hand the program over to Juliana and Tyler. I put his head down so I could see who it was. And they're going to take us the rest of the way.
Hi everyone, we'd like to go into our open mic session. I hope you guys got a lot out of the small group discussions. I know I did, and my group had very great conversations about what's going on in our community right now, as well as just everything you can think of, and it was all positive vibes, and we wanted to extend this as an open mic session for you all to share what you guys had thoughts on today, and also the program that we put on for you guys.
We also realized that a lot of people have left because of the bus schedule, so if you heard anything interesting from them, feel free to share them if you have. So if anyone wants to come up, then just come on up here, and we'd love to hear from you. We're all friends here.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason Fuji. I go to Cal State Long Beach. Today marks my 6th pilgrimage here at Manzanar, and actually my 5th time that I was a discussion leader. And I do really enjoy doing that because you really, beyond being in the groups which are very helpful and very eye-opening, as a discussion leader, I really find that I'm way more focused, and you get to really see and hear the different stories that come through. The first question I believe almost everyone was asked was, why is it important, or why do you come to Manzanar, or to this pilgrimage? And I think my reason that I told my group was, it's a way to kind of connect with my grandparents who were interned at other different internment camps, and also it's a way to kind of remind me about what has happened, and kind of to ground me to what is going on today, and to realize how big of a connection there is between today and the event that happened 75 years ago from Executive Order 9066. So it's definitely a way to just kind of bring me back down to to humble me almost at a level, and to kind of keep my eyes open and keep myself aware of just the possible nature of this repeating history that we're all trying to prevent here by coming to this pilgrimage, by opening it up to not just Japanese Americans, but to anybody that wants to come and learn and just collaborate with other groups to kind of build that hope that this history does not repeat itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Anything? This side. Jerry.
Hi, I'm Jared. I'm the only freshman that came from Cal Poly. I'd just like to say is, I'm half Japanese, half Filipino, so I have grandparents from both perspectives of the war. And I'd like to say, as someone who grew up in the Bay Area in NorCal, with a really accepting community, I made friends of all different ethnicities, and I feel like there just is a sense of just like this all happened so long ago that everything's like better now, because you know there's a lot of halfies, like everyone's just good now with Japanese people, but now there's a situation after 9/11 with Muslim people, and so I don't think people from my generation are necessarily drawing enough connections between the two, and I feel like this whole Manzanar experience was just really great to bring the kind of like my own history and the history of internment camps, to connect it more to reality. The whole experience was very real, and I feel like there's just not enough of like programs like this to like teach like the new generation and remind us of our roots and what could happen if we don't remember and learn from the situations that our grandparents and our families were subjected to. And even if, like, we weren't, like, even if you weren't necessarily like, affiliated with the, like, Manzanar thing, it's just so important to realize, like, the reality of it as Americans. We're all, like, people, we're all good with each other, like, in our, like, little communities, but it's, like, a lot bigger than that. And I feel like being American is just a lot bigger than just being, like, a race, and it's just realizing the history of our country and just, yeah. That's what I was trying to do.
Same way when I came 2 years ago myself, and it's been such a great journey now here, like helping facilitate this, and I definitely, what you said, you know, I can feel that too. Anyone else have any comments on what they experienced or any comments?
We accept all forms of communal participation. If you have
Hi everyone, my name's Chloe. I came with Cal State Fullerton, NSU, but I'm originally from Sacramento, California. But one of the main things that we talked about in my group was that how can we prevent the past from repeating itself? And one of the main things that we kept coming back to was education. Personally, my grandparents, they don't like talking about this kind of stuff, so it's very hard for me to get information out of them. And in history classes, you know, growing up, through middle school, elementary school, high school, it's just a paragraph in history book. And there's really stuff like this, and it just comes down to education and just telling your friends, telling your family, having your friends tell their friends. Because, you know, when I tell people, you know, outside of our community, like, oh, I'm going to Manzanar this weekend, and then they're like, oh, what's that? And then I have to explain it. Like, not a lot of people know about this place. So I think it's important to just educate the people, and with that, I think, you know, in time, maybe people realize that, you know, like, what's happening, like, with Muslims today is, like, it's awfully similar, and it should be stopped. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we're still inviting people to come up here, share something that you learned, share something from personal thoughts, experiences, share someone else's thoughts, experiences.
Hello everyone, my name is Teja. I'm from UCSD's NSU. But I'm from the Bay Area. This is my second time coming to Manzanar. I didn't come last year, but the year before that. And something that I noticed was that a couple years ago, it was more focused on Manzanar and like incarceration in general. But what I noticed this year in particular was how it applies to like not just Japanese Americans, but like all Americans. And as a non-Japanese person, I feel like I want people to see Manzanar the way I see it, as like not as like an outsider, but more like something that everyone should see. Like, yeah.
Any non-students want to come up and say?
So I'm not a student. My name is Katie, and I would kind of like to piggyback off of what you guys have been saying so far, and actually issue a challenge to everybody here, that when you go back home, please, whether it's to people that you work with or share this experience and share that story so that more people can be educated about what happened to the Japanese American people. Any other comments?
I'm Frankie. Actually, I just wanted to come up here to thank all of you and organizers and everyone here. Just because for about 18 to 19 years of my life, my father forbade me to learn about my Japanese heritage. And after I decided to move out, I've been spending this last year just really digging deep into my roots. And to be able to go to an event like this and see how large this community is, and know that it's not just supported by Japanese Americans, but also every American here, is just so heartwarming, and I just want to thank all of you.
Hi everybody, my name is Lisa Hasegawa, and I was an undergraduate working a long time ago with Dan Matsuda, and I left Los Angeles 20 years ago, over 20 years ago in 1994, and so I have not been able to be a part of, the subsequent pilgrimages and all of the work that you all have done to make it what it is today, because I do remember when it was just like a van full of people, and I didn't go then, and but it was, I just got back last year, and so it was a priority for me to be able to come this year. So in Washington, D.C., I was Executive Director of the National Coalition for Asian Pacific American Community Development, and I have to say it's great to be home so I can participate in things like this, because we didn't have that opportunity. I also got a chance to go to Jerome, where my mother's family was interned in Arkansas, and so I think that also it inspires me for what I feel like now my responsibility is to really tell the story about the two internment camps in the South. Because I think that it's very interesting. I mean, this was 20 years before schools were even integrated, right? And the perspective of African Americans in the South during that time is something that I'm really interested in learning more about. So it was really inspiring for me to be able to come this year, so thank you. And Dan said, you picked a good year to come back, so I could be a part of this year. I'm also on the board of the Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in Historic Preservation, and Michelle McGowan, our executive director, is here. We're actually doing an event in Los Angeles on May 13th at the Center for the Preservation of Democracy at JANM, and she's going to talk a little bit more about that. But thank you so much for everybody who's been working for so many years to make it what it is today, so I can experience it in its sort of fully fledged. I mean, I just know that there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, so thank you, Jan.
Hi, again, my name is Michelle McGowan. I'm Executive Director of Asian and Pacific Islander Americans in Historic Preservation, long name, API for short. And just like Lisa mentioned, we have an event in Little Tokyo on Saturday, May 13th from 10 to 1. It's free. Everyone's invited. You can go to api.org or to our Facebook. But it's basically talking about the kind of work that's happening not only here at Manzanar, but throughout the state and throughout the United States, as not only has the work for so many decades in our communities has been about elevating our stories so that it's no longer erased or censored, but now in this given time, how do we safeguard them? Particularly in this last week, we've seen executive orders go against our national monuments, where they can go for sale to private owners and become private land just in, tomorrow. So how do we safeguard those? And those are some of the pressing issues we want to share. So not only talking about the best practices and what's all the awesome work we're all doing, but it's also a moment of uncertainty for us in the work we do in our daily lives, but how we can do this, come together and talk about how can we move forward given the political climate that we are in danger with. So I just want to thank the organizers for the pilgrimage. Always an amazing time, and I tell so many folks that the only way you could truly experience what was experienced during the war 75 years ago is to go to these pilgrimages like Manzanar. You can read the books, you can go to museums, you can, talk to folks, watch documentaries, and they're all great. I think the culmination is to come here to Manzanar Pilgrimage, especially at Pilgrimage, and really feel the experiences here. So thank you again.
Hi everybody, my name is Tyler Suginoto. I'm a second year at UC Santa Barbara from NSU. I just want to say I grew up very fortunate. I was able to participate in a lot of Japanese American activities and all this stuff. I played basketball, I got to go to Orange County Buddhist Church, I did all these leadership programs, and I have all these opportunities waiting for me due to the Japanese American community. And I just wanted to address that although the hardships were very unfortunate, I can't express enough how much I respect my grandparents and other grandparents for going through what they went through, because I do believe that it gave rise to a beautiful community where everyone can come together like this and solve problems together. So, thank you.
Two more schools, UCLA and UCR.
So first of all, I'm Kendra from UCLA. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Manzanar Committee for creating all of this and making this pilgrimage what it is today, and also for years past. I first made my pilgrimage to Manzanar with all four of my grandparents who were interred here in 2010. It's been 7 years since then. And it's quite a different experience coming back this year without them, as it's different because the first time, in 2010, I walked the blocks and I walked the path, and I watched as my grandpas both trace paths that they walked when they were in camp. And they would point to empty lots and narrate it to life. They would say, this is where I met your grandmother. This is where we built chairs. This is where we played basketball on Saturdays, stuff like that. And it was crazy. And now, 7 years later, there's new developments and barracks where you can go in, and all these things that my grandfathers and grandmothers told me and narrated, now everybody else can experience and get a piece of. So thank you for making that happen. Also, I just want to thank the Nikkei community, Japanese Americans, for providing this, for Nikkei student unions and Nikkei student alumni for keeping those ties. Because even if you don't have grandparents who came to Manzanar, or you're not part of the JA community ethnically, we are a community and we are welcoming, and thank you so much for being that kind of support. Thank you for making sure that these stories matter.
Just wanted to say, Kendra, I love you. Yeah, everyone, feel free.
Hello, I'm Brayton. I'm from UCR. I just want to say that, yeah, I'm not part of the Nikkei community ethnically, but I've been at it from a young age, as everyone from UCR knows. I started judo when I was 6 and went to OCBC. So I know Tyler. And I do feel welcome into it, and it's a great feeling. And that welcoming feeling and what we have here today is something that I hope we can share with people who we may not have already shared that with, the people that are even alienating us, and so that way we can bridge the gap and not spread more hatred that's being directed at us, and instead respond to that hatred with acceptance and trying to understand their side, because they're afraid and we don't want to do the same thing. Yeah, that's it.
My name is Lisa Rodriguez. I am a UCLA alumni, but about 2.5 years ago, one of my friends shared a video on Facebook, and I watched it, and I just felt the burden of this story. And I remember thinking at the time, you know, we all, maybe not all of us, but most of us probably in this room, were even laughing at the thought that Trump could possibly be president. I remember thinking, is it possible? Like, could that happen again? And I kept thinking, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. And as time went on and on, I just realized, wow, it is. It really is. It was challenging for me to have the burden of this story too, because many ethnicities within me, but I strongly identify with my Native American heritage, and there was almost like this pressure on me to feel guilt for not wanting to more accurately tell the story of the First Nation people, the Comanches and the Navajos, and what they did during World War II, and their story in that. In October, I had the opportunity to go to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, as a gathering of various First Nations people, and I got there a day early because I feel like areas, they have like a memory, and I wanted to experience that on my own. And so I went to the Cherokee National Heritage Museum, and as I was there, and I was able to read an excerpt from one of the people who lived in that area at the time during the time of the Trail of Tears, and as I was reading it, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what we did to those of Japanese descent here in Americas. And I'm like, and me having the burden of telling this story, is it that I'm negating my own people's? This happens to my people too, so telling that story is also telling the story of my people. And so now I was going to do just a movie on being from World War II to after the end of World War II, but I realized as I studied, there's just too much, and people need to know. I'm a native Californian, native Angelino, and we don't know this history. We're liberal California, so if we don't know it, like what chance does the rest of this nation have of knowing this? So I realized this also needs to be a mini-series just to flesh it out more fully so people can know the way it is, and I finally landed on the name Something Strong Within. But I wasn't planning on coming up here, but I felt my heart beat faster. One of the things that happened as I was doing my research, unfortunately you learn things that you kind of can't unlearn. And part of the thing I had to just come to, I realized I needed to come up here right now because I need to apologize to you as a representative, not only as a native Californian, for not standing up for you and saying that was wrong and it never should have happened. But as a First Nations person, having that happen to my people, for not standing up and saying, no, that's not happening again. And also, for the founder of my church, Angela's Temple, Amy Semple McPherson, she was one of the people who was most vocal against allowing those of Japanese descent to return to California. And so I feel like that's also why I have the burden of this story time to try to right those wrongs. And so I just want to ask you for forgiveness and hope that somehow you can graciously accept my apology for our lack of standing up for you, for being strong for you, and letting too many of these things happen. One of the reasons why I also have the burden of this story in my research, you all amaze me. Your grandfathers, your uncles, your aunts, your mothers, your fathers. It's amazed me the beauty that came from these ashes. And it's really just kind of forced me to dig deeper into the Japanese culture. And I just there's so much beauty there, there's so much strength, and I know that's true of every people group, but I just also want to encourage you guys that that's true. Like, it broke my heart. Or one of the barracks, I forget the gentleman's name, but he was saying that one of the things that happened after the camps is people are like, okay, we need to try to be as American as possible. You can't change the way you look, so just stop speaking the language, stop doing the traditions and the food, and please don't do that. There's so much beauty in your culture. I grew up in Echo Park, so my mom would take us to Little Tokyo sometimes, just to see the celebration. So please, do what you can. If you don't speak the language perfectly, that's okay. Just start asking someone what the traditions mean. Just do what you can. And you have to reflect it the way you're supposed to. I don't reflect my culture the way either of my relatives who came before me do. But I just want to encourage you just to be honest to who and authentic to who you are, because you are a unique reflection of your culture. That's beautiful, and I was amazed, and I'm still continue to amaze. And the more and more I dig into these stories, just the beauty and the strength and resilience that you guys have. So thank you for that. And thank you to all of you guys who keep continuing to put this on and keep fighting and just keep telling these stories, and for being faithful and being strong and coming here when there's hardly anybody. I'm very grateful for you, so thank you.
Thank you for being very forward about everything you've been feeling. And on behalf of the entire community, thank you all for the gratitude that you've expressed. It's not really my place on behalf of this entire community to say that we accept your apologies. And I can say that personally, just your presence is something that means a lot to us. We've all grown up seeing maybe one paragraph in an American history book about the internment experience, and we've had lengthy discussions about what internment means versus incarceration. I've had a lot of discussions with people who have grown up thinking that this history doesn't really matter to this country. You see that by how poorly preserved Manzanar was before, and how it's being brought back to life just by people's memories and by people organizing once again to preserve the history of it. I really love this community. For those of you who know me, you probably get that by how long I've been here and everything that I've gotten myself involved in. I'm fourth generation. I wasn't brought up with basketball or with the church. I didn't go to J school, wasn't in a Japanese Girl Scout group or anything like that. And a lot of my experiences came from when I started at UCLA and when I joined MSU. And I started to become very passionate about all of the work that I did, getting involved in the community, meeting all these great people. All of the schools here, it's a really proud feeling to say that I know at least one person from every school here, because I'm generally not a super extroverted person, but y'all have made me feel very comfortable in this space, and I'm really happy that I've been able to meet all of you. In wrapping up, I guess because I became so passionate about things, I almost started to look down on the fact that I wasn't raised in a very JA family. My mom didn't really get me involved in anything. There's no Japanese spoken in my household, and it was just kind of disappointing to me almost to see how these people grew up in this community this whole time, and I didn't have any of that. I just kind of appeared out of nowhere and made some great things, but it wasn't until very recently that I became a lot more thankful for the contributions of different generations and more understanding of how people express themselves. My mom has never really been involved in the community, but she started taking this multimedia collaging class and creating all of this really cool art recently. And she started telling me about how it made her really emotional. because she was doing these pieces that she didn't mean to make like a family series, but a lot of her work started to reflect our family history. And it just started to turn out that everything was about my grandparents' camp experience. It was never that like anything that we really talked about, but I started to realize that it was important to her in a different way. And the reason why coming to Manzanar is so important to me, even though my grandparents were in different camps, it's really an experience that is irreplaceable in the sense that I don't really get the chance to talk to people from different generations and to hear different perspectives. I never had the respect for those generations until I came here and heard the stories of like Nisei folk, Sansei folk, and everyone who's coming to Manzanar, even if they're not of Japanese descent. And it's sobering to me in that I never had this concept of understanding. It's always been about like someone is more involved, and because you're more involved, you're a better citizen of this community. But really, like, everyone has a different way of contributing, and it's been a blessing to even have this pilgrimage in the first place that brings all of these people together. And so I feel like we need to kind of wrap things up a little bit. Of course.
One more.
Huh? We have one more? Okay. Yeah, don't want to end any remarks, but on behalf of the committee, just thank you all for sharing this space with us. Thank you all for contributing. It means the world to myself, and I know to a lot of the people here that you find value in coming here every year. And I guess we'll hear from one last person and then wrap up the night. But once again, thank you all for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Ayako Masu Hamazaki Moya. And today we had a talk. The main speaker was Juan Furutani. And he mentioned about Victor Shibata, and I thought, sitting in the audience, I thought I better say a few words because Victor Shibata was my cousin. Also, he was born in Ogden, Utah. His mother was my mother's niece, and I was his babysitter at I think maybe 5 years old. But we lost him at the age of 68 in a massive heart attack a few years back. And I'm sure that he's proud of all the work that the Manzanar Committee and all those who volunteered and who are here to keep this Manzanar Pilgrimage alive. He also, according to Juan Furutani, named this as Manzanar Pilgrimage. He gave the name to this group, and I'm so happy to see that a great deal of work has been put in, and it's flourishing in memory of all those who have gone before us and for all those who are young generation coming up to learn about our background as Japanese American. I was interned in Poston, Arizona. I'm originally from San Diego, and I'm glad that the universities are participating. I'm a UCLA SC grad. Thank you very much.
Okay, so to close tonight, we would like to thank the university and colleges that work with us, including California Pomona, you guys, UCLA, Cal State Long Beach, and my alma mater, UCSD. So thank you guys very much for coming and also volunteering your time, especially the Manzanar At Dusk committee. Thank you guys. Really enjoyed working with you, and I look forward to next year.
And we'd like the committee to come up here, please.
Manzanar At Dusk.
gentlemen, it's these dedicated young people who've been working since October, really, to put this event on for you. They did a lot of research. It's been a lot of work. Just about every single thing that you've experienced today has been there doing, so please give them your gratitude.
We'd also like to thank Leon, who's up here. He pretty much set this whole thing up for us, and he's really like the superhero of the day. So thank you, Leon.
Thank all of you for coming. You make this happen. Like I said, this is an interactive event, so without you, we don't have an event. So please give yourselves a hand for joining us. And 1 year from now, the 49th annual Manzanar Pilgrimage and the 2018 Manzanar At Dusk program will be held on April 28th, 2018. We look forward to seeing all of you back here in Inlands Valley next year. Thank you. There is one final thing. We have some chairs to fold. If you folks can help us pick up the trash and make Leon's work a little easier than it is, we'd appreciate it. He'll tell us where to stack the chairs, but if you don't give us a hand, it doesn't take a whole lot of time, we'd appreciate it. Thank you all again. We appreciate you coming.